Hey all, welcome to the Slayer Podcast. I'm your host, Bill Eyre, owner of Slayer Duck Calls, a company founded on family heritage, unrivaled quality craftsmanship, and an uncontrollable obsession for hunting. Let's get to it.
We are here with Bill Eyre, founder and owner of Slayer Duck Calls. So I did some research today, so I literally know nothing about duck hunting, waterfowl hunting at all. I decided to, go down the rabbit hole today. I found out some pretty cool things, but I want to ask you, I want to start, what got you into, I read your bio, it said you started hunting at 8. Who got you into it? Your dad, friends?
Yeah, it's it's a long story. I don't know how much you want to know of it, but basically, I grew up with my dad taking me hunting as far back as I can remember. As soon as I could barely walk, my dad had me come along on pheasant hunts. He was a big time pheasant hunter. He was not a duck hunter. So I just remember walking through corn. Corn stubble was about as tall as I was at that time. And I remember going through tall corn and getting scared, starting to cry because I couldn't find my dad. It's like this huge maze of tall corn, right?
Yeah.
And he'd kill a pheasant and I'd carry that thing, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, seemed like 20 miles, by the time we were done, but by the end of the day. But I would tote his pheasant along and watch the dog work. And I was always amazed. I know as a kid, I was always amazed at watching the dog work, on the pheasant, picking up scent, starting to get birdie, going on point, bird flushing. And my dad, either missing or killing the pheasant and seeing that bird come back in the dog's mouth to me was just always just, I don't know. I look back at that. It's just like, it brings back just super cool memories of the fields that we walked, being with my dad and all that. I didn't get really into duck hunting until about 8 years old. My dad used to let me shoot coots. When we were out pheasant hunting, we'd see some coots. He'd give me the gun when I was, 6, 7 years old and let me shoot a couple of coots. And ironically, not too many people eat coots. They're not known as a very good duck to eat, but my grandfather and grandmother, they came over from Sicily and my grandfather loved coots. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, he'd let me shoot coots, bring them to my grandpa, Pizzurro, and he'd cook them up and loved them. So.
And did he cook those up a special way, or was he just?
I can't remember, to be honest with you. I wish I had his recipe because, I don't know a good coot mud hen recipe for the life of me. So I wish I had it. I don't know if it would have been good or not. He used to eat babaluchis, which is snails and things like that. So he ate a bunch of weird things. So I don't know if the coots would have been any good or not.
That's hilarious.
Yes, that was my first duck, if you want to call a coot a duck. People probably would laugh at me if I called a coot a duck, but that's probably my first waterfowl that I actually shot when I was probably 6 or 7. But then what got me into it when I was 8 years old, we grew up in a pretty predominant Italian community, and a lot of the Italians would go up and, they'd fish out of the Golden Gate during the summer, and then in the winter, they didn't have a whole lot to do, so they duck hunted all winter. And so I had a lot of friends, and this guy Brian Sobrani, his family was a huge duck hunting family, and every once in a while they'd let me go out, and they'd have these big elaborate blinds. We'd drive the boat, park underneath them, and you get out, and they'd spend all summer, camouflaging these blinds and building them and tuning them up for the season. And we get in there, and it was just, for me, that was the cream of the crop. Just the boat ride out there, going through waves, the weather, sitting out there, enduring it, watching these birds, work these big ponds over tules and come in over the decoys and watch his brothers call and his dad call. And for whatever reason, it instantly hooked me. And I was like, I'm going to duck hunt the rest of my life.
Do you remember when you got your first call?
That was probably when I was 10 to 12 years old. I still remember exactly where I bought it and when I bought it. I can't tell you the exact age I was at, but I was probably 10 to 12 years old. I bought a Alt DR115 from Kmart in Antioch, California. I remember my mom taking me to the store. I picked up this call and I was like, I got to have this call. And she's like, are you sure? Is it any good? I'm like, yeah, it's the best call ever. I had no clue.
You had no idea?
Yeah, and it's this big wooden call, and I still have that call on my lanyard today.
Do you really?
Yeah, and you know what? I've killed thousands. I don't know about thousands. I probably killed hundreds of ducks with that call, and just for some amount of reasons, I keep it on my lanyard.
You ever use it still?
I do. I call it the foghorn. If it's, it's weird because we'll be out there and, not a whole lot's going on. And for whatever reason, it's my good luck charm. My people that know me, they'll be like, hey, blow that foghorn. I'll do a high ball and I'll be wah, 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 wah. And I'll tell you what, probably 30% of the time something happens,
Really?
Yeah, and I think it's just dumb luck, right? And
really?
yeah. And
so after all these years, that call still works? No problems? Have you had it repaired? I mean,
no, I mean it's in pretty bad condition. The reeds are worn out. Gosh, I've lost the soundboard on it. I can't tell you how many times. And somehow I find that thing laying in the corn, laying in the field, laying in the blind.
Wow. You and that call are meant to be together.
Yeah, and I actually bought a DR115 on eBay that's in the box new.
It's funny you say that because when I read your bio today, I actually went and looked up the old DR115.
Yeah.
And the only place I could find them was eBay.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot.
Yeah, when I bought that call, it was $12. I still remember it was $12, and my mom was, we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up, and my mom was like, okay, well, if you buy that, you can't lose it. You got to take care of it, right? And now you find them on eBay, they're $65, $85.
They are. They are. So let me ask you this. Me doing a little bit of research this morning, I didn't realize first of all, how complex duck call is itself. I had no idea. It's a pretty simple concept when you're talking about different tunes, single reed, double reed, different tones for different areas. That kind of interests me because apparently there's different, like if you're in an open water setting or a big water setting, you would use maybe a double reed. It's louder.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably looking at your acrylics. Single reeds tend to be a little louder. So yeah, you're looking at acrylics and also what makes them louder is the tone channel and the exhaust. And yeah, the open water, you're definitely looking for a call that can get out there, cut through wind, cut through space. In the timber, you tend to get a lot of echoing if you're too loud. So we'll start to tone that back and look for something a little less loud or less that won't echo.
So is wood itself just a softer tone?
Yep. Just it absorbs vibration, it absorbs sound. Also, the harmonics on it close together. So what happens is it by the harmonics being a little further apart, it absorbs that sound and dampens it a bit.
So first of all, when did you decide to start Slayer?
Oh gosh, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe five years ago. It's kind of a long story, but
I want to hear it.
Yeah, my grandfather who came over from Sicily, he was a custom furniture maker, and he came over in the early 20s and started a custom furniture business coming off the boat in New York. Then the Depression hit. They moved out to Pittsburgh, California, and he continued that business. And then my dad, he was a Marine, but then out of the Marines, he became a steel worker. So he worked steel with his hands. My grandfather worked wood with his hands. And I remember, and my uncle I was super close with, he was a 4th generation cobbler his parents were from Italy.
Wow.
Yeah. And so my mom, she worked, my dad worked. So she dropped me off at my grandfather's a lot where I'd watch him work wood. And then she dropped me off at my uncle's shop where I'd watch him work shoes. And then as I got older, they'd have me work in the shops. So I was never, I could never.
Do you actually do some of the shoe work?
Yep. I would do, I couldn't make a shoe if my life depended on it, a complete shoe, but I can take a heel off. I could put a heel on. I could put a sole off, take a whole sole off, put a sole on.
That's really cool though.
Things like that, right? My uncle would be like, hey, pop this heel off, pop this sole off. Here, punch these in. So, or lace the sole on and things like that. So I got to work with my hands, and then, I played sports, got into school, got into college, playing college football, and all my buddies went into the finance industry or software industry. I grew up in California, so everybody was going and hitting the .com boom. And so I got sucked into that. And so for 20 years, I was trying to make money and kind of lost the art of working with my hands and some of those old school things. And I was like, you know what? I bought just about every duck call on the market. And they, there's some really good ones. There's 90% of them are garbage. I've wasted probably $2,000, maybe $3,000 on duck calls, right? That I've just blown for a little while. They just can throw them in the trash or give them to some little kid. But, and there's a few good ones on there, but the good ones, they do one thing really well, but I didn't find a call that could do everything really well. I was like, you know what? I want to mess around with this. So I know a little bit about wood. I watched my grandfather work a lathe, and the lathe always amazed me. He'd make, spindles for bed frames. He'd make legs for chairs on the lathe. He'd make legs for tables. He'd make columns on the lathe, all kinds of stuff. And he always used hand tools, very, very crude type of, machinery, not the stuff that they have today.
Right.
And I was always super amazed by that work. So I'm like, so I went and bought me a lathe and started tooling around and made a duck call, and it didn't work, and made about 50 others and didn't work. And like, man, this isn't easy. So but through those errors, I started to learn what causes the call to work, what causes it not to work, what causes it to do, certain sounds and so forth. And over about 10 years of piddling around with this, I came up with the call that was pretty darn good. And so I still didn't think about, doing a company or making duck calls. But then, I started giving them away to folks, and they're like, dude, this is probably one of the best calls I've ever blown. You should sell these things. I'm like, I don't know. So a couple
of hobby. It was just something you like doing. Yeah.
I'm making good money selling software, companies I'm working with are going public or getting acquired. And I'm like, man, I can make a lot more money in software. So anyhow, a couple more years go by, and more people are like, dude, you got to sell these. So my sister and I put together a shabby little website and started selling them, and people started buying them.
So do you still manufacture some yourself?
Yeah. I mean, everything that goes out of Slayer today goes on my lathe, and I tune it. I polish it. I manipulate it so that it's perfect when it goes out. When they come out, now I send it to a CNC shop to have that work done. But when it comes in, it's never at the point where it works to the point that, to the standards that I have to go out. So I make sure I put the reeds on them. If the reeds are a hair too long, I'll knock a little off. I always hit sandpaper on the soundboard, make sure that they're tuned correctly, and make sure they're hand polished, look correctly before they go out.
So you touch every single one before it hits the market?
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's not very scalable, right? But I believe that it kind of goes back to, my uncle, making shoes, and my grandfather making furniture. If it's not right, it doesn't go out. And the reason people went to my uncle, Oakland A's, San Francisco Giants, they used to bring their gloves, their shoes to work the leather, because of their reputation for quality and for getting it right. And same with my grandfather, people, all over the Bay Area would go to him because they knew they're going to get quality I still have furniture at the house that my grandfather made, 60, 70, 80 years ago. It's better furniture than I've ever bought anywhere else. Right. So that's the quality and the craftsmanship that I want to put into every call. So for me, if I don't sell 100,000 duck calls because I have to touch them all, that's okay.
That's good though. I mean, because not many companies are willing to, especially, I mean, you're not just the owner, you're an operator, and you're touch every single product before it goes out that's a heavy load, especially with the amount you guys are selling right now.
Yeah, it is. I don't know what time is it now. It's 7:15 my time in Idaho here, and I'll be up until 11 o'clock. I got a show in Texas coming up on the 25th, and I want to bring 400 or 500 calls there. So I'll be up until midnight tonight messing with calls and getting them ready.
Work that out. Yeah, sure.
It's a typical day. So working the books and all the other stuff that goes along with owning a business during the day, and then usually my nights are out in the shop messing with calls.
So do you think that are your calls more, obviously they're being handcrafted, made in the United States, and beautiful, by the way. I mean, the photos on the website, I don't think do them justice. I've seen them, they look great, but I've seen it in person and it's amazing. Do you think that your duck calls are catered towards the more hardcore duck hunter?
Yeah, again, I'm trying to make one call that does it all, right? Because you don't need a million calls on your lanyard, right? It's just clumsy and it's messy. It'd be nice to have 2 or 3 calls on your lanyard that you can trust and use for a lifetime. And so what I try to do when I build the call is build something that is aesthetically cool, different, and appealing, right? And pretty awesome.
They are awesome.
Yeah, something that's durable, something that's going to withstand 3-degree weather, snow, rain, freezing temperatures, warm weather, whatever that you're hunting down in Louisiana or Texas. And then if you're up north and Idaho or North Dakota and you're hunting, this thing's going to withstand all that and still last you. So I try to put all that together into one call. And then not only with the aesthetics and the durability, but also a call that can highball. I might have the only double reed call that can actually highball. There's probably some out there that can do it, but you know, every call that goes out, our double reeds can highball. They can get low. They can, you know, for the trees, if you can take the echo out, yeah, you can refuge feed. You can Cajun squill with them. You could do the bouncing hand. You could just do your basic comeback calls, your greeting calls with them. So it's definitely a call that you can do everything with, and hopefully it's a call that everybody can appreciate the aesthetics and durability on.
When you duck hunt in Idaho, do you have a particular area you like to go?
In Idaho? Yeah, I still like doing it the hard way. You know, in California, I grew up on the Delta, and you know, it was different back then. You know, I'm only 50 years old, but so when I say back then, I feel like I'm talking like I'm an 80-year-old, but
way back in 1870.
Yeah, but back in you know, it was all public land that we hunted on the Delta, but everybody kind of staked claim to a certain area, and they'd build a blind, and it was just an unwritten rule that if somebody had a blind there, you didn't hunt it. And you know, you did it the hard way. You got up at 3:30 in the morning, you got your boat out, you went, and the Delta would get rough. You get 5-6 foot swells out there. You know, you take on water, you know, as you're hitting those on a 12-foot, 16-foot aluminum boat. You get out there and you set decoys, and you're getting cold, you're getting wet. I still like doing it the hard way. So, you know, here in Idaho, I'll hunt the Snake River a lot. I hunt the Boise River a lot, and, you know, we're getting up early. We're going out in typical average temperatures. Probably, I think last year was 19 degrees. You know, you're doing 25, 35-minute boat rides in the dark. A lot of times it's snowing or some, you know, the wind's blowing, and it's cold. And
yeah, I lived in eastern Idaho. I lived in a little town called Swan Valley for a while.
Yeah, that's beautiful up there.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. Lived there for a couple of years. So
I belong to clubs, and I've hunted, you know, flooded corn and rice and all that, and some expensive clubs. And I don't know, that's fun, but it's almost like going out in your backyard and shooting your cow. You know, it's you know, don't get me wrong. There's something for everybody, and I don't knock it. Like, if that's your thing, I'm all for it. You know. You know, somebody's has a disability, or they're getting older and they don't want to do it the hard way anymore, or they don't have a lot of time. They need something that's there and set up, or maybe they don't have a boat. Maybe they don't have the resources to do it the hard way. So to each his own. I'm all for it. But for me, it keeps me in shape. It keeps me alert. I like competing against other hunters for the birds. It keeps me on my game. So I like doing it the hard way.
A newbie wanted to get into duck hunting. I mean, obviously there's a lot involved. I found out quickly today. Well, I mean, what would you recommend? I mean, the starting package.
Oh gosh. First I would go to somebody that you trust that duck hunts, right? Because I've wasted, I don't know how many thousands of dollars on poor equipment. You know, everybody says they're waterproof. I've yet to find one or two things that are actually waterproof year over year that will last and continue to be waterproof. Backpacks, bags, guns, ammo, waders, to gloves, to hats. I mean, you want to be out there and be comfortable. I mean, we'll sit out there for 5, 6, 7 hours sometimes, and if you get cold, your feet get wet, or you get a chill on you, it's just miserable. You know,
right.
It's fun for anybody. I don't care how tough you are. So you want to invest in good equipment, and that doesn't, you know, it comes with a price, and so you don't want to waste money finding out that your jacket's not waterproof, or finding out that your boots aren't warm enough.
Yeah, it's too late if you're out there and your shoes aren't waterproof.
Yeah, and you already bought, you know, a $400 pair of waders, and they're not working out for you. You bought a $300 jacket, it's not working out for you. You know, all your equipment and your backpack gets wet, or it just doesn't carry it properly, and it's just a pain in the ass. So, you know, find somebody that you trust that can steer you in the right direction. Hopefully, you know, what we're going to do on the Slayer website is give a lot of that advice to hunters. Young folks, or anybody who wants to get into the sport, and help them. You know, it's always good to learn from somebody's mistakes so you don't make them, right? And so I've made a million of them myself. I would love to get, because, you know, all it takes is a couple bad experiences for somebody like, you know what, duck hunting's not for me, right? They're out there, they're shivering, and, you know, some old grizzly dudes like, no, we're not going in. I don't care how cold you are, right? They're like, you know, the next time the alarm clock goes off at 3 o'clock, they're like, I'm going to stay in my warm bed here.
That guy was kind of a jerk. I think I'll just stay in bed right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm assuming that if someone was going to duck hunting, they're probably an experienced hunter in some fashion. Maybe not, but it would probably be, you know, helpful to find someone that you can, with a lot of experience that can kind of lead you down the right path. And equipment, I mean, the 101, I guess, of equipment and, clothing, things like that, you could probably find just about anywhere, but you need someone that has enough experience, like you said, and has screwed up and bought the wrong crap a lot, that can actually walk someone through it and help them out. And I think it's a great idea to put videos on the website because, I saw on the website right now you have some tutorials on some of the duck calls, which is great. But I think that kind of content, though, just expanding that content would be awesome. That would be awesome for you guys.
Yeah, and the equipment is just the first thing. I got a funny story. Is this last fall, my nephew wanted to go duck hunting, and my mother-in-law's husband passed away, and he had a bunch of guns, and she gave him a shotgun. And so he comes over and he's like, "Hey, Bill, I got this shotgun. I want to go duck hunting." And so he comes in, and it's this, it's got a red dot sight on it. It's got about a 16-inch barrel. It's got an extended tube that holds 12 rounds, and it's got a pistol grip. I'm like, Nick, that is not a duck hunting gun. That is a home defense shotgun.
Yeah. That's John Wick's shotgun.
John Wick owns that shotgun. They must have got it from him because that's not, you're not going to kill any duck. You could, but that's not.
Yeah, you're awful close.
And then he's like, okay, well, I'm like, I'll give you a shotgun to use. And he goes, well, what kind of shells do I need to buy? And so, I mean, people, you'd be surprised. They want to go duck hunting, but they're completely clueless, which is, I mean, there's a lot to it, And then I go, well, I'll go buy some 3-inch threes. It doesn't matter what kind, Black Cloud, Kent, Rio, whatever you want to buy, but just buy some, what, 3-inch threes? What? Like, then they get to the store, there's no 3-inch threes. He's like, well, can I get these slugs? These 3-inch slugs. I'm like, nah, you're not, no.
You want to take the bird back.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so there's a lot to the equipment, but then when you're out hunting, there's a lot of unwritten rules, and I think I might do a podcast on some things not to do when you go duck hunting, and just try to help folks out. But yeah, there's a lot of things that just aren't written down, right? That when you're in the blinds, some things that you need to pay attention to so that you don't upset the other folks that you're with or screw up the hunt, flaring birds and things like that.
Right. And I think probably, and it might not be the most fun thing, but I think maybe observing, a couple hunts before you actually get into it, have the patience to go out and watch people that know what they're doing, do it, and then kind of emulate that instead of, because you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy. No one wants to be that guy.
Yeah. And that, that's how I learned. I was, I just thought that, my buddy Brian Sabrani took me out with his family that time. And then, I got to know some of my other aunts and uncles' friends who had blinds out there in the Delta, and then they'd tote me along, and they'd give me their 2 cents. And then I'd meet somebody else, and I'd go out with them, and they'd give me their 2 cents. And not that everybody did it right, but you start to, it's like any training or any course that you take, you take 20% of it, and you throw the other 80% in the garbage until you have your own way of doing it, right? And over the past 45 years, that's kind of what I've done, is tailored it to the experience I want to have and the way I want to do it.
Well, I think that obviously with the knowledge you have, 40 plus years of, waterfowl hunting, I mean, you can impart that knowledge on some people, and there would be a lot of grateful folks out there, I'm sure.
Yeah. And again, I don't consider myself an expert, but I do have 40 so years of doing it, and we have a lot of success, and we have a lot of fun, and if I can give some of that knowledge to folks, that'd be awesome.
I'm just curious about what show are you guys going to be at in Texas, by the way, because that's I know Jennifer's going as well.
Yeah, we're going to be at the Ducks Expo, which is put on through Ducks Unlimited. It'll be in Fort Worth on the 25th through the 27th.
You taking 600 calls with you?
Yeah, I'm going to try to, anywhere from 400 to 600. So it depends on how many I get.
Brother, I hope you sell them all.
Yeah, I do too.
I hope you sell them all, man. You guys, I mean, I think you guys got a great product. I mean, there's a lot. You guys have a big push behind you right now with the website and the social media, and obviously Jennifer, and there's a couple other people helping you guys out. And I think sky's the limit. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm passionate about it. People who've been doing this, building duck calls and selling them, over the years, I probably think I'm crazy for getting into this, but it's a passion of mine. I love the craftsmanship about it. I love the people that are involved in duck hunting. They're the salt of the earth, and I love being around it. I love being around those people. So for me, it's not work. It's a passion that I enjoy. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that history, that tradition. I don't, and And a lot of these call makers are older, Dunn over at Echo, like he's getting up there in age, and I don't know how much longer he's going to be doing it, or if he's going to sell the company or what. But there's these guys aren't going to be around forever, and the tradition of duck hunting, going out there with your father and doing that, and doing it with I go out with my daughter. She's in Oklahoma now, but she makes special trips every duck season to come out and duck hunt with me. And I mean, those days I'll never forget. They'll always be remembered. And I want her to have kids and take them out duck hunting. And, so if you're not getting involved in this and keeping the sport of hunting, duck hunting going, like who's going to do it? Right. So, I'm at that point in my life where I want to get back to it. It's given me so much, the places it's taken me, the people I've done it with, my friend, I got some close friends, guys I went to kindergarten with that I still duck hunt with today, family members. It's like, I want others to experience that and have that, right? And so it's time for me now to give back. And so I'm like, okay, I'm done with the software world, the whole corporate America and all that. I'm putting that to the side and going 100% here to try to preserve hunting,
How do you think you could make it scalable? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to teach people. I have apprentices, just like my grandfather, my uncle did. You just got to teach people the craft of doing it. It's complicated, and it's trial and error, and you just got to do hundreds of them, and then eventually you get the feel for it. You got to be able to blow a duck call in order to know what it's doing.
It's a hell of an investment in someone though. To it has to be the right person, because you're talking about hours and hours and hundreds of hours of work.
Yeah, and there's a lot. One of my pro staff members, Tanner Hardy, he's a kid that can blow the roof off with a duck call, and he's handy. He's got a mechanical mind. He's a good old boy from Idaho who's he's 20 years old, but he's probably worked more equipment and tools than most people have in a lifetime.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so a guy like that, and he's taken a real liking to the duck calls and the building of them and things like that. So I've kind of taken him under my wing to show him the trade and show him how it's done. And so, I can see a guy like Tanner being a guy that I can give a call to and say, hey, tune this, and eventually he'll be able to do it.
You're going to need at least 10 more of them pretty soon.
Yeah, hopefully. That'd be a good problem to have. So yeah, you bring up a good point. I got to start looking for other tanners to start helping out there.
Yeah, I know you got probably 50 duck calls to go work on. So but I do appreciate you jumping in. I really wanted to just kind of learn a little bit more about you. I think that people, they love a good product, but they love a good story. And when someone has passion behind what they're doing, it translates. It translates far more than just a nice advertisement on Facebook or whatever. So I wanted to just kind of hear it from you, and I think that's what people want to hear. They want to hear why.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
And for me, it's not about the money. I don't make a ton of money on these calls. By the time you get the acrylic, by the time you take it to the CNC machinist and they do their deal, I mean, we're not making a ton of money on each call. And for me, it's the passion, it's the sport of hunting, it's being able to give back to the wildlife and serving their habitats so that people actually have ducks to hunt.
Right.
So by the time you give 10% of that to Ducks Unlimited or whatnot, Delta Waterfowl, California Waterfowl, there's not a whole lot left over. But for me, it's not about the money. It's about the sport.